Good morning. Apologize for that distraction. I'm holding a different microphone than I was expecting, and that threw me off. Welcome to Utah, and I'm so glad to be back out on the trip. I missed the flight. I missed the flight on Tuesday. We talked about that. I had to be at MHD to show off some things that we're doing up there. I missed that, but I'm back. I made it in late last night. I am tired, going on very little sleep, but man, this has been a great experience. It's a great experience. So with that, let's get going with this thing. Let me turn it over to Brett for a minute.
Yeah, Andy, great to have you back doing more of the hosting duties, and it's great that we were able to catch up and you were able to get in last night. That's great. Yeah, we're in Utah. We're excited. Day 4 of our five states, 5 locations. So we're really excited about being here at Axis. And I'll toss it over to Wes, and he can welcome you himself.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. We're really excited to have Weinig and Holz-Her out here to our location and our facility here in West Jordan, Utah. We've got the PowreMobile here. We've got machines under power. We're ready to run. And we would love to have everybody come out and visit us today and also get a demo or two. We'll also be doing live demos here tomorrow. You can call and make an appointment. We are following the COVID restrictions here locally. We have masks, we have hand sanitizer, and we'll take your temperature if you want. But what we'd like to do now is go outside and get going on our Weinig PowreMobile demo. And so we'll go ahead and we'll turn it over to Jimmy.
Yeah, he's got the microphone. Tell everybody Facebook, YouTube, and WeinigHolzer.com.
So you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube at WeinigHolzer.com, and click on the links and you'll see the live demos.
Yep.
Right now, we'll turn it over to Jimmy.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Salt Lake City, Utah. Glad to have you here. We're coming at you live from the base camp, Mooresville, North Carolina. Drove 2,186 miles out here to be with you today. If you look in front of us, there's a big old truck that brought me here. So welcome to Axis Machinery Open House Weinig Retool Tour. So we're going to get started. We'll walk up here to the front of the truck for those who are kind of anxious to see what does this type of work. This is a 2014 Peterbilt. As you can see, it's got a 350 Cummins in it. It's got a 13 speed. Of course, it's black, so you can't see me at nighttime. And we travel all over the United States and Canada. For those people that can't come to Weinig, Mooresville, we'll come right to your site, and that way people can actually come out to the truck. We don't have to worry about, 2 or 3 people coming to Weinig, so a whole of your employees can come out to the truck and see what the new technology is. So if you look at it, we'll try to keep it clean, but sometimes it's hard out here in Utah. We've got sand and rain and all that good stuff. So if you look on here in the back, this is where the work's done. We got a 65 kW generator that powers the 480 supply for the moulder and the ripsaw. It's run by a Martin generator, a little 4-cylinder Zuzu engine. And it's been pretty good. It's about 18, 20 years old, but it's been done its job. So that's what we try to maintain, not just going out to customers and seeing things. It's a job in itself to maintain the thing, keep it going. And it's not cheap to maintain it, have to get tires, everything else, so fuel. But we'll walk up here and show you the workstation. If you look down there, there's a moulder. It's a P700. It's got 6 spindles on it with PowerCom. It's all electronically controlled. We also have a Ryman VeraRip 310 2M and that has 2 movable blades on it, which for the woodworker, which is nice to maintain your quality of wood and keep the cost down. So we'll walk up here top, walk over. So welcome to my job at Weinig. This is what we did for over 30 years. Weinig came out with the PowreMobile a little over 30 some years ago, just to help assist the people and get the technology to each and every woodworker, because back in the late 80s and the early 90s, everybody was working the old style, you know, the old woods and deals and bonnets and things of that nature. And everything was hard to set up. You had to have a very trained technician or a very trained operator to actually maintain your production. So then we made these machines more simplified so that anybody can pretty much run them. So what we done, we built this truck. We had 2 of them at one time back in the early 90s, and then 95 we quit it for about 4 years. And then everybody thought we just kind of disappeared. So in 99 we put them back on the road. And that way we can come right to your shop and pretty much pull in your parking lot and give me 10 minutes to open the doors and take about 30 minutes for a presentation. And that way we can actually answer any questions you've got. And a lot of times we go to people and they look at it and say, well, it's overpriced. And they look at it and say, you know, it's too complicated. So once we run it and show it and demonstrate it and let one of the operators that they have at their facility actually take hold of it and run it, change the head, do a profile change, then they look at it and say, oh my goodness, where has this been for all these years? And then they get a new concept of what we're trying to do. Is trying to simplify production and trying to keep the cost of production and labor down and keep the, keep the dollar at the end of the day as a profit for the people, so everybody can go home and buy another jug of milk. So this, like I said, this is a P700. It's a 2017 model. It's modified for the truck. As you see, the truck's not very big, but we used to have a little small moulder on here. It was called the ProfiMat. And all you guys out there in the woodworking land probably understands and knows what the ProfiMat is. We sold almost 5,500 of those worldwide, and we discontinued those, and the gold took place, and then the 1000s, and now we're up to the P700s, P1500s, and now we got the new 3000s. And so we're always coming up with new ideas. Weinig never sleeps. It's always on the prowl for new ideas and takes in all kinds of ideas from our customers and see what they want. We listen to you guys out there and come up with ideas because you help us design machines as be more efficient for your workplace and also for your work staff there that you have with you. So if you look up here on the screen, it's got a power comm. And then we got, this thing stores 10,000 different profiles. And you got pictures, which I'm from Tennessee. All you guys back in Tennessee, hey, y'all. So anyway, you can see the pictures. So if you don't understand the written language on either side of the pictures, you can look at the pictures and go from there. Your boss man say you want a profile that's crown. So you look up there and it's, oh, that looks like a crown. That's got to be it. So you hit it, and it tells you exactly what to do. It's kind of like being married. Your wife kind of tells you what to do, when to do, and stuff like that. It's kind of nice. So it kind of prompts you through setup. And then once you set it up, if all the blinking lights is gone and all the digital readouts are set up right, then you're ready to go. So it also holds 10,000 different tools. So we also make 10,000 different tools, store them in a data bank, and it's in there. So you don't have to guess, don't have to worry about where the tools is, making up the tools and all that stuff. And all you guys that has questions about, oh, what do you do when you resharpen it? Well, that's simple. We got a measure machine in the back there, so all we got to do is, once we get the tools and they come dull, we grind the tools. We have a grinder, we make it all for you. So we grind the tools, we take it back there, we remeasure it. So that measurement may change 2 or 3 thousandths. Not a big deal. You take a number, might be 26, now it's 22. So you put that new number back in the tool bank, and it works exactly the way it was before you take it off. So there's no guesswork about it. It's just one more little bitty step you got to do, but it makes it more efficient, and everybody's on the same page. So nobody gets it wrong, nobody gets it right. Everybody's on the same page. So that's the way it works, and it's all computer base, and it's all linked together. Weinig's out to help the customer to be more efficient in the workplace, and that's why we don't just make a molder, we just don't make a grinder, we just don't make an optic stand. We make a system. So, you know, you first-time buyers out here looking for a machine, we'll put you in a machine, get you up and running. We'll treat you like family, and if you got a problem, it's our problem, not just your problem. So it's all family-oriented, and we want to make sure that you're taken care of when you buy our equipment. Weinig's over 100 and some years old, and they ain't been in business that long to kind of hoodoo people. We got a wonderful staff, and we got good technicians. Some of them are young and kind of wet behind the ears, but they're hard workers, and they care about you out there as a customer. So what we can do is put you into a lower-end machine. You run that machine. You get familiar with that machine, and everything's good. Teach your employees. Next thing you go, man, I got to have something else. So you look around and go, man, all these other guys got this electronic technology and all this stuff. They're beating their britches off. So you call up the big old Michael Weinig up there in Mooresville, North Kakalaka, and say, hey, look, I'm ready to trade up on something. And one of our friendly staff will come out there and talk to you and say, just like Wes Shepard, for instance, out here in Utah. You call that pretty boy, he'll come out there and knock on your door. He'll give you a bag of candy and, hey, what do you need? So he'll listen to what your needs are, and he'll try to suit you with equipment that you need to more help you in your business. So what we do when you trade up, then your machine becomes like a used machine, and we take that back, and the guy that doesn't have a machine, the first-time buyer, might be able to buy that one. So that way, when you buy the new machine, you may buy one with technology on it, with a computer, so we can actually link that, you know, to the tool room. Then if you want to link it to the saw, and then we actually have what we call a meal vision system that actually hooks your whole shop together. So the man in the office can actually sit upstairs and kind of look around, see what's going on, and what he likes and what he don't like, and what's working and what's not working. That way you know what your employees are doing. And at the end of the day, you have more better feel on the production you have in the day versus the operator say, well, we couldn't do this today because that failed. You'll have real-time work time, and you'll know exactly what's going on with this system. So it's not out to get you, it's out to help you, okay? And a lot of the old guys like myself don't like technology, but I've learned it makes me a little lazy because I hit a button, the machine does everything. It keeps me from using my muscles as much. It's great, I love it. And it don't make me have to think so much because everything is computerized and it's numbers. So if you can read from 1 through 10, you can pretty much set this thing up. So again, when you grow, we want to grow with you, and we're a company that will actually grow with you and help you through all the hard times, just like this coronavirus thing's going on we got going on. We've made, you know, new ways to get around that, to actually go and do these videos and online videos, and the customer will don't want to come to Weinig, we'll do a video for you on the camera, and that way you can see what's going on, and that way if you like what you see, then you can either come down there or have a sales agent come to you. We always try to wear, you know, the friendly mask is, you know, America mask up. That's the rules. And out here in Utah, the wind's blowing, so it's all going the other direction. But what we're going to do is stop right there for a little bit, and we're going to go over, for those guys that's watching, had a lot of calls about, you know, what happens if this does that, or what happens if that does that. And so we're going to take a little bit of break here for a second and do a little bit of maintenance class, kind of show you what could go wrong and how to fix it if it does and things like that. So we'll work from the front of the table to the back of the table, and then what we'll do, we can actually maybe run a piece of board and show you the product, show you a changeover, because all you guys like me, the old style guys, that has to do it the old hard way. That's, you know, a lot of spindle wrenches and turning wrenches and beating your knuckles off. You'll love it. You'll love coming to work when you get a machine like this, trust me. You really love it. If you drive a truck, you can come over here and help me, and we drive it all across the country to show other people. So what we do, as you see, I got a real short end feed table. I don't know. And they say, well, why in the world did you cut your table off? Well, if you look, I don't have a lot of room on the trailer. So I have to get behind there to turn the machine on. I have to have wood. So Germany, which is our mother office over there, and they accommodated me by making me a special machine with a short table and some special accommodations to actually fit this trailer. And it's a still functional machine, so if we sold it, it would go off just like it is, Don't have a whole lot of hours on it. It's got a few miles, but not hours. So we look at the table, and you guys out there are saying, well, when I run the wood, I'm having bite off. We call that bite off or snap in the South or whatever. So there's a couple of things could cause that. Is if the table's not lined up, when the wood's going through it, the bottom head's taking more off than you really want to. Then when it goes through the machine, it comes out the back of the machine, you got bite off either on the top or the bottom, and you'll think it's in the backside. But always check your first bottom the first time to make sure you're not taking way too much off, because the last bottom only takes 20 off. And if it doesn't have enough to take it off, it'll leave the bite off in it that's caused by the first bottom. So always check the first bottom. We got 4 cams. We got 4 cams on the table. And if you look down in here, back in here, there's a cam. And those are centric cams. So the table does like this and does like this. If they're not perfectly lined up, then your table pivots one way or the other. So when the wood goes through the machine, it actually pivots one way or the other way, and it goes through and it's taking more off on one side or the other. So when it goes through the machine, the top head doesn't clean it off perfectly because it doesn't have enough to clean it up, because the first bottom done took what it wanted off. So then you come to find out, I got a problem. So you think it's the top head or bottom head or something wrong with the machine. Always start here at the top, right here at the bottom, at the table, and that way you take a straight edge, you go through the machine and you check the alignment from here on both sides and parallel to the inside tables. And when you do that, we'll walk up here just real quick. We'll open up, see, if you see what I'm talking about, see my finger? That's all I'm doing. I'm holding my finger on a button. That's very hard, isn't it? That's what I thought. So we open the machine up, and as you see, the table leads into the first bottom. And the first bottom, sometimes if it's too high, it'll actually take a lot off from it. So when it goes through the machine, it doesn't have enough for the top, and that's where you get the bite off. So always make sure you check your tables. Just take you a straight edge and go across there, and just make sure those knives are just barely touching. And if they're too high, you need to drop the bottom down. And then that way you'll get parallel to the table. Then when you go through, it takes bare minimum off. Then your problem solved on the back, okay? And then on the inside right, the same way with the fence. If the fence is out, if you look back there in the back, if you don't have a good dust collector, it builds up a lot of dust. And when you're sliding that fence back and forth, it wants to build up. So when it builds up back there, you just spray it out, clean it out. And then when you do that, if that fence is built up a little bit of dust in it, it'll actually bring it out and throw your alignment off on the first right. And that's where you'll get the sniping stuff off the right and off the left. So you do that, make sure you got good hold down pressure throughout the machine. And I know it's hard to change wheels, but we have telescoping wheels. We'll actually loosen that Allen screw, and that shaft will actually come in and out this way. And when you bring it out where you want to, you lock it down, put another wheel on. It ain't like the old bolt-on style back in the old day. Again, that's why we say we listen to you guys out there in the field. What would you like to see different? What would help you in the field? And what would help your guys better be efficient on running these machines? So we've listened, done some changes, and that's where we're at today. And as you see now, instead of the old days, instead of wrenches, we've got kip handles on the machines. So it's very easy for old guys like me, if you got enough strength to turn it, to do what you need to do, lock it back in place. And that way somebody with a wrench is not over tightening it with a big old cheater bar and breaking things and tearing things all to pieces, which costs you money at the end of the day. And also these wheels will actually come up and get out of the way so you can get inside to change that head. And if you look, some of you guys out there watching, that's old school. You remember the old spring pressure chip breakers we've had on their machines. Now we went with air-loaded air cylinders, which is more forgiving, and different types of wood that we have. So if you've got a lot of variance in the woods, those air will actually bleed off and feed more consistently through the machine versus going in there and getting stuck. And if you remember back in the old days, they used to call them stickers, because you run a board and it gets stuck, and then you take another board and you beat it to death to get it through there. Well, if you see we have a cardan drive, it's consistent wheels and consistent drive system. Will actually take one board and feed it all the way through the machine, unlike the old deals and the old Vonicats and stuff like that, where you'd have to take a board, put in here, and then that first roller would keep feeding the board. So we've changed a lot in a little bit here. So as you look, We got wheels all the way up to the first top. We got wheels in the middle, and we also got wheels at the very end. And if you look at here, see how big the cutting circles are, and also we can get them extremely small, close to the cutter head. That eliminates any error for sniping and bite off and imperfections in your wood. And these chip breakers are now made and designed that they don't go up and down like this anymore as far as getting close to the cutter heads. If you look, there's a solid plane, a flat plane up there, and you've got 2 screws back here. So when you loosen those, you can actually move those chip breakers in and out closer to the cutter head, and also the pressure shoe closer to the cutter head. Unlike the old style, which were on a pivoting plane, so anytime you loosen that up and you change chip breaker shoes, you'd always have to recalibrate your Seco counter up here. Well, that's not so anymore, because the way it goes this way, you never have to change the counter to accommodate for your chip breakers or your pressure shoes. So that's why we kind of like this, because you get extremely close. And also, if you look, we got a driven roller here. We also have a driven roller in the front up there to help you feed the wood through here more consistently. And the last top head, again, same as it was on the first. You see, you can get a better idea back here on these screws, where the screws are. We can actually loosen that up, and what happens, that pushes that shoe in or drives the shoe back by loosening and tightening these screws up. And unlike, you had corrugations on the old ones where you had to loosen them up, get underneath there, loosen them up, move them in and out, trying to get them parallel. Now there's no more hassle with that. It takes you a few seconds. In order to do so, we got one wrench now. They actually take the wheels, you loosen that set screw, and you take the wheel off. Unlike taking a 13 millimeter and trying to get the nut off of there and pull the wheels off and get them back on. So we try to simplify everything, get everything made where you can actually work more safer and more efficiently. And if you look back here in the back, we got rubber rollers that actually helps pull the wood out. If you got a lot of pre-plane lumber, you can also put rubber here to actually keep from marring up the wood. So if you look right here, these rollers, they take a 1/16 of an inch. So they kind of bear down into the wood. So if you have wood that you can spare a 1/16 of an inch, this is what you want, because it's a more aggressive wheel, and it helps pull the wood through there a little bit better. Consistency. And if you like I said, if you got a real tight tolerance, you can put the rubbers on there and still pull, but you may have some resistance going throughout the machine. And just to keep it table lubricated, we got a wax it pump up there, and you can get it automatic or you can get it manual. This one here's manual, show you some different varieties. And also the fence here, and you see it's all one piece now. Unlike some of the other machines, the ProfiMat, we had a little bitty fence here, and then what happened was this right here wasn't connected to anything, so when you're running the wood, you're trying to tighten it up in there, it wouldn't hold it. But Germany has listened to you out there and designed this where you have 2 hold down points. So once you push the fence into where you need to go, then therefore you can lock it down and run it. And we also have another version, which is an automatic fence. So once you run your product through there, it actually sees and sends a signal to the controller and actually moves that fence automatically in for you, which a lot of people likes that. The only thing is if you're doing a lot of crown and stuff, you have to make it variable as far as up on the height and stuff like that. This one here, you see, it's you can raise it up and down, so it's a variable. So if you got crowns, you can bring that fence up to the point of that and run it as you need so. And if you don't want to run a fence at all like S4S, you can pull that back, because on the PowerCom it's got a S4S version on it where you can actually just go ahead and hit whatever sizes you want and keep hitting the buttons and it starts changing sizes. You don't have to do nothing, it's ready to go. So it makes it more efficient, makes it more friendly for the operators to run it, and they're not scared of it. Don't take you a certified sticker man to run a moulder anymore, okay? So back here, we'll just show you real quick. This is the optic control stand. Back here's where I told you we had to measure the tools. So when you measure the tools, this is linked to the moulder, so the numbers from here goes directly to the moulder, so the operator don't have to be scared of saying, oh Lord, how am I going to do that? This is linked to that, and once you measure the tool, you hit enter button and it updates the new tool size, and there's no guesswork about it. So it makes it very simple. Once you grind the knives, you grind them, you put them on the measuring stand, you measure them, and you hit the enter button on whatever size it says it is. It updates the computer on the PowerCom, and you're ready to go. So it makes it all simple. That's why I said, why not just don't make molders, they make systems. So now with the system, with the grinder, the molder, and the optic control stand, it becomes one unit. So it all works hand in hand together. So I hope you got a little bit out of that, and we're going to go over to the rip saws just a little bit and show you a little bit about that real quick. So this right here is a very rip, and if you see up on the screen, it's also got a computer on it. It's got a computer on it. It's got a rip list up here, so you put your sizes in. Also got a cut list, so if you got different cuts that you want to put into it. So if you got a job for 3 different people, you can put those 3 different jobs in there. Once the job is completed, then you can put a priority up here, and then it'll go to the next job. And it's got 4 blades on it. It's got 2 set blades, and it's got 2 movable blades. It's a Vera rip, so it's a multi-blade system. So you can't, just like the old single blades where you have to run a board, rip it, and go back and get it and run it again and things like this. So that way it helps you cut down on the rip time to do variable jobs if you got many jobs and you only got a short period of time to get it and you got limited people to help you. So it makes it real nice on it that way. And also we put an in-feed system to it, which makes it a little smarter. So it's got more technology at the end of it. So the operator just puts a board on there, and with the technology and information you feed into the computer, it does pretty much all the work. It measures the board on the length, it measures the board on the width, and it gives you a solution to whatever size you want, and it cuts it. At the end of the day, you got a buggy full of products that you can use for different varieties of customers. So we'll move on back here to the back. As you see right here's where you put the wood in. It's got kickback devices on it. It's got one here, it's got one there, it's got one inside in there too. And we also have a Kevlar in the back of it. It's one of the safest saws on the market. That's why Ryman built it that way, because old folks like me can't take many boards coming back at you, and you don't want to get nobody hurt. So the industry is emphasizing safety. So when we do safety, we do that. And also in the chain, we have spikes in the chain, so it actually grips the wood and pulls it through there. It also has a waffle. We might be able to see it better here. Has a waffle which actually sits on top, and we also have spikes sets down in the creases of the waffle chain, and those spikes only penetrates the wood on these 20 thousandths of an inch, because we know once you rip the wood, it's only going to take 20 thousandths off the molder. So we have the blades here, and I don't know if you can see that or not. See them moving? Okay. So if you see the blades moving, that's what it does when you're actually given the information it needs on the computer side to actually rip your wood. And you see these rails, they're on rails and on servos that drives it off the information you put in the computer. We also have a hold down board, pressure shoe, and you'll look, it's an open shoe. We can get an open shoe, closed shoe, phenolic shoe, metal shoe, whatever you want to do as far as a shoe. And we also offer a glue line cut on this machine, which is kind of a standard thing for us that a lot of people don't offer, because what happens is this is not a direct drive machine. It's kind of like the motor concept. We have an arbor. It goes back to the back. It goes to a pulley system. Then we have a motor mounted to the bottom of the machine, and it's driven by 5 belts back there, V belts. So any kind of vibration into the motor is absorbed into the belts, so it doesn't come out to the arbor and penetrate itself into the wood. So that's why we can offer a glue line cut versus a lot of other people. And if the belts break or whatever, it's easy to change. And if the arbor goes bad, that's easy to change. Where if you got a direct drive, you've got to pull the whole motor, arbor, whole assembly, and it's very hard to do because it's in a tight spot. Well, this whole back of the saw opens up. You got a motor down here. You got a forklift at the place? Sure. Grab a chain hook to it, take the motor on out here. This thing right here, you got an arbor, kind of like the moulder on the spindles. So you go back there, loosen up the quill, and you pull this arbor out. You take it and send it off, get it fixed, or you can rebuild it yourself, because here's what we call a quick fix arbor. If you look at this little handle, you loosen that handle up, and we have waves in here. Let me see if I move that back so you can get it. So you can see these waves in here, like here. So when you release this, they recess down. That way you can move your blades wherever you want to move them. And then this has a reservoir. So once you tighten it up, it kind of works like a brake cylinder. So when you apply the brakes, the fluid goes through it and opens your brake shoes or your brake pads and stops the car. Well, kind of like this, when you turn this, that opens up and actually locks the blades in place. And when you release it, the oil releases and goes back in the reservoir. You move your blades. So it's a simple thing, and only Ryman came out with that, years ago, and it works very well. So Ryman was one of the best sellers in America for many years. And because if you look at how easy it is to get inside the machine to change your blades, because the other one, you got a little bitty hole. You got to open the hood, you got to get in there. And then what happens, you've actually got to pull the whole saw blades and stuff out, put an arbor, build an arbor, slide it back on. Well, here, you don't have to, because we can actually go from kerf to kerf, which saves a lot of saw blade life. And versus like the other ones, when you're building up an arbor on the other rip saws, you got to have shims to actually make up your spacers and all this stuff. Very time consuming. And today, you can change these blades probably within 15 minutes, and that's drinking a cup of coffee in between. So, and it's not very hard to do so, and anybody can do it. Loosen them up, take 2 bolts off, bada boom, bada bang, you're done. And what's really nice back here, you got pressure shoes under here, and people's going to ask, oh man, you got electronics on that. What in the world is going to happen? What if you run a board through there and one of my bubbas out here wants to move the saw blade while it's running? Good question. That won't happen. We have proc switches in here. So once that pressure shoe activates the proc switch, it's up in the air, so the controls to move the blade back and forth is not existent anymore. So once the saw is free of wood and it becomes open again, then you have access to actually move the blades back and forth. That was one of the biggest questions we ever had when we first came out with the Ryman. The bubbas in the industry wants to move the saw blade while the wood's moving. I used to be a bubba, I know. I like to play with things, so that happens. But Weinig realized there's bubbas, so they implemented some safety procedures over here, and safety implements on proc switches and things like that. So it keeps you from tearing the saw up, keep people from getting hurt. So that's a little bit on the saw there. And as you see, we got one port. I hope you have a good dust collector, because it does, as you see, we got 2 baffle plates. It doesn't build up real bad, because these 2 baffle plates confines that dust and it goes out through there. We got a 10-inch port on this. Some of them's 12, but this one here's a 10-inch, and it pulls very well. So you don't have to worry about that. And then here in the back, it's got a feed-out roll.